This month, elections for the European Parliament will be held in all member states of the European Union between the 22nd and the 25th of May. The EU claims that its aims are peace, prosperity and freedom for its 500 million citizens in a fairer, safer world. But don't be fooled. The EU is not what it pretends to be. By definition, the Brussels EU is not a democracy. It's a dictatorship. The basis of any democracy is that all power derives from the people. But when executive power is no longer controlled by the will of the people, every democracy turns into a dictatorship. And this is precisely what has happened to the Brussels EU. The Brussels EU is not a democratic structure. All legislation designed to rule and regulate the lives of 500 million Europeans derives from the so-called European Commission, a body of unelected, largely unknown individuals who are only subject to the will of multinational cartel interests. The EU Parliament lacks even the basic key element of any democracy, namely the right to initiate legislation. It's essentially a puppet parliament. Walter Hallstein, the principal architect and first president of the Brussels EU, was a racist, a fascist, and a vicious opponent of democracy. Are we really supposed to believe that a man with such deep-rooted, anti-democratic convictions could possibly be interested in planning a platform for a democratic Europe? Every 5 years, the cartel lobbyists in the media and in politics fool the people of Europe into believing that they are voting for a democratic parliament as the basis of a democratic Europe. The people of Europe are made to believe that, just as is supposed to be the case in their national parliaments, that in the Brussels EU all power derives from the people. In fact, however, almost nothing could be further from the truth. The EU Commission is the central cartel office and was designed by the cartel during World War II with the goal of ruling Europe outside of any democratic control. Unbeknown to most European people, 28 unelected EU commissars rule over Europe with the help of an army of 54,000 unelected bureaucrats. In sharp contrast, the people of Europe are merely allowed to elect 766 politicians to the EU Parliament, a political body that essentially functions as a fig leaf for an outright dictatorial construct. 54,000 unelected bureaucrats versus 766 elected politicians means that the cartel has de facto imposed 80 bureaucratic watchdogs to keep every single parliamentarian under control. So what are our options for this election? Well, there is essentially only one option available to us. Don't vote. Any other action is a vote for this undemocratic Brussels EU construct. But whatever you choose to do in this election, you must support what we propose next. On November the 13th, 2007, over 30 survivors of the extermination camp Auschwitz and other Nazi concentration camps met in Auschwitz for a one-day conference. Based on their unique moral credo, this extraordinary group of people decided to throw their weight into the discussion about Europe's future. In a solemn ceremony, they shared their experiences from the past and proposed a constitution for a Europe for the people, by the people. This constitution calls for the right to health, the right to life, the right to natural food, the right to a healthy environment, respect for human dignity, and the protection of social values. This was the birth hour of the movement of life. So visit this website, sign the petition, and stand up for your rights. The movement of life is an international movement of people of all nations, races, and religions. It is not a political party, but it is driven by clearly defined goals. The movement of life supports the Constitution for a Europe for the people, by the people, and expands it to the global level. The most fundamental human rights are the rights to health and life. We realize that these fundamental human rights will not be given to us voluntarily by these corporate interests. Therefore we, the people of this world, need to work together to defend them. So join us. It's your world, our world, that is being shaped right now.